Well, without further ado, let's jump right into some Florida State recruiting. We'll say a shout out to our friends at Hydrate Heroes, Extravaganza Productions, all our great sponsors as we bring in Pat Burnham from the Osceola, who's had a very, very busy weekend at Florida State with all the official visits. What's up, Pat? How are you?
Man, just trying to catch a breath. Still some follow-up work to do after 19 kids on an official visit this weekend to Florida State. I had 4 midweek visits, big visit from a 2026 quarterback that was unofficial. So you got, 25 visits, kids in town over 5 days, 6 days. And, of course, they had all kind of camps in June. But, yeah, listen, it's been the moving up the National Signing Day to the first week of December has really turned the summer into official visit season. You'll have some kids that will take some in-season visits, probably 5 or 6, but for the most part, the hay's in the barn as far as what you can do with these kids. Obviously, the calendar goes dead. Went dead last night. Will be dead through July 24th when you can bring on kids back on campus for about a 5-day window before the calendar goes dead again around August 1st. But, yeah, busy weekend. A lot of good news coming out of there here for Florida State.
All right, let's get right to the good news. What commitments were made? Who are these folks?
Well, listen, I think it was the reaffirmation of commitments that's the big news coming out of this weekend. Javion Hilson, one of the best defensive ends prospects in the country, said after his visit yesterday that he is done. There will be no more unofficial visits to Florida, no more official visits anywhere else once the season started. He is locked down. Javion Hilson will be a Seminole on December 4th. Nice. Another kid that was probably in that same boat, Solomon Thomas, took official visits to Florida and LSU in May and June. Finished up his official visit with Florida State yesterday and said twice, I'm a Nole, I'm a Nole. There was a lot of concern over the last 2 months about him being maybe flipped by Florida or LSU. For a couple of weeks, Florida was considered to be turning the tide on Solomon. Then it was LSU after his official visit there. But, I felt bad for the kid yesterday. It was clear that he was tired of the recruiting process. Probably didn't want to talk to us. Did, but he said all the right things if you're a Florida State fan. And listen, we're starting to hear more of these kids address NIL without being asked. He said that he could have gone to other places that offered him more money. And obviously in his situation, it was Florida and LSU, but this was more about development, and he felt like he could be developed for the NFL by Alex Atkins and Mike Norvell, and really feels like hinted that maybe some other commitments were coming, and that he was really looking forward to playing on building the offensive line with his class that could include Josh Petty and Ty Haywood and Peyton Joseph and Max Buchanan and so forth and so on. And then, of course, Tramel Jones, the quarterback commit from Jacksonville. Yep. He's another kid that has really, his recruiting profile has caught fire because of what he's done on 7-on-7. If there's a transitive property from 7-on-7 to real football, I don't know. But listen, he's certainly blown up. He's been to Florida a number of times. I've got a source in Gainesville, hits me up every time that Tramel's there. He said he's going to put all this to bed at some point this week. He will be in Jacksonville for the Rivals 5-star camp. I'm leaving there today, so we'll try to get up with Tramel Jones, but I think it's done. I think he's a Seminole. If you go back and read his interview or watch our YouTube video at the Osceola YouTube channel, you'll hear every word the kid said. It's certainly reading his words and what he said. It's merely a formality at this point. I would be totally shocked if Florida's in the picture after he once again reaffirms his commitment for the 3rd or 4th time. So you got that going on. Then, you got Peyton Joseph, a 4-star offensive guard from, I believe, Houston County, Georgia. He's down to FSU in Memphis. I think that's more of a case of whether FSU decides they're going to take him, more so than Memphis. Now, Memphis has got the new FedEx money, so we'll see what happens there. They got a lump sum of money from FedEx, which is based out of Memphis, and they just got a commitment from his high school teammate, quarterback, and golly, why is this Antoine Hill? Florida State is going to get a commitment today on the defensive line. I'm not going to tell you who it is because we promised the kid we would not break it for him. Right. But I think that Florida State fans are going to be happy if everything goes to true to form or through his timeline, there will be a commitment today from a defensive lineman. So there will be some good news coming out of that. Tavion Wallace, the 4-star linebacker, we anticipate that he will sign or commit to Florida State on July the 2nd. So you're going to have, I think, Greg Thomas, I believe he said June 30th, safety out of South Florida. I expect that he will be a Seminole commitment within the next 5 or 6 days. I believe he is committing on June 30th. So, yeah, listen, we just got through with official visit season. We're fixing to go through commitment season. So.
All right. Yeah. Well, we all know with NIL, those things can change. Dion lurking in the wings.
Yeah. Well, there should always, I think some of the bloom has come off that rose.
Yeah. I believe it. No, most definitely.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. So it's been a very busy month for these guys. I do think that obviously they got their 2026 quarterback with Brady Schmeigel came in for his second multi-day unofficial visit to Florida State, again with his entire family. The writing was on the wall. We started hearing last Sunday a week ago, that Florida State had found its 2026 quarterback. And as you started going back and looking to see who had been on campus and who had committed elsewhere, it certainly looked like it was going to be Brady. And I think if you want to watch some fun quarterback video, he's a pure pocket passer. But if you want to watch some good, nice throws and tight windows, go to Brady Schmeigel's huddle page and check him out. So yeah, a lot of good. Listen, they're in the final 3 for Ty Hayward with Alabama and Oklahoma, a 4-star offensive tackle out of Texas. So listen, there's all kind of news coming out.
A lot of good O-line. Something that has been a liability for years is becoming a strength at FSU, right?
Yeah, probably the only bad news coming out of this weekend is my understanding is that they really had their sights set on a defensive end out of Alabama named Zion Grady. Zion committed to Ohio State this morning. So you might see Nick Clayton come back in the picture for FSU. He took a midweek visit to FSU. I think he wanted to commit to FSU. Obviously, he committed to Wisconsin, I believe, on Friday or Saturday, excuse me. I think you could see with Zion coming off the board, I think you could see FSU circle back to Nick Clayton out of Gainesville, Florida. And, of course, they're still in it with Jalen Wiggins, who's committed to Florida, who was on an official visit this weekend, and a lesser chance with Jared Smith, the 4-star defensive end out of Alabama. So listen, there's still this thing is going to continue to roll on through December. We'll see some.
Feels a long way away to keep these kids committed, but you just never know. So just in general, Pat, there's a feeling that I know Norvell has become the king of the portal, but and we all knew it would take a little bit of work and time to get the high school recruiting where they wanted it to be. Is it your sense now that they've got pretty much both of those on lockdown, top 10 in each portal and high school recruiting?
Well, listen, this is the new calendar has kind of revamped this. Like a lot of people are concerned because they only have 4 commitments heading into this weekend. Well, what we saw last year was the current year's class is going to commit in July. That's what we saw last year. Florida State blew up its commitment list in July. I think we'll see most of these kids commit between now and the end of July. You'll have a couple of kids that will wait until, Ty Hayward said, I don't have a timeline. I'll commit when I commit. We had a couple of kids that said that. But, yes, listen, you got to find the balance, right? And I think each year's roster is going. I don't think you're ever really going to know what's going to happen until you get to December and you find out which of your kids are going to leave and which of your kids are going to stay, and that affects how many portal kids you got to go after. So it's a moving number. But yeah, listen, they've done a better job. Listen, winning hides a lot of stumps. It's just like in business. Yeah. Revenue hides all. You don't have to be the best salesman in the world as long as you're meeting revenue, right? You can do anything. You can be like Michael Scott. You can be as strange as you want to be, as long as your branch
numbers come in.
As long as your branch is successful. So listen. So I think that they're finding their balance each and every year. Listen. They got to close out with some of these guys. Listen, it's kind of funny. Everybody's always said, well, Florida State only brings in defensive ends through the portal. Well, now you got the number 1 defense in the nation, Javion Hilson. But winning helps that, JP. They've won 23 games in 2 seasons. That helps overcome the lack of relationships. And listen, the one thing I'll give Mike credit for is they have relationships all over the country because of where his staff came in from, both on the field, off the field, and they got the Schmeigel kid committed from California, so they have kind of most of their kids are coming from closer to Tallahassee than they were when they initially got here. But certainly they continue to cast a wide net, and it's worked for them. But yeah, listen, Mike's. They've proven they know what they're doing in the portal. The portal is a part of this business, and it's about finding a balance each and every year.
It certainly doesn't sound like it necessarily from everything you're saying, but have any of these sanctions recruiting-wise that were placed on them at the beginning of the year, has any of that played an impact at all during this recruiting cycle, like maybe the NCAA wanted it to or anything?
I don't know. I think the biggest thing was the number of days. They lost some days on the road, but not every school uses all their allotted days on the road. So I think it was more, and I know they've appealed some of the penalties. I don't know where they are on that, but no, I think at the end of the day, those were minor infractions with minor penalties. And listen, it's Florida State. They're winning. They've got to, by all battles in, seems to be doing good with the NIL. So I think that they can overcome whatever penalties they had, they'll overcome.
That they got penalized for doing
probably the biggest
penalty,
to be honest with you, is Alex Atkins not being able to coach on the field. I think for what is it, 1 game, 3 games? Anyway,
3 games.
Yeah, so I think that's the biggest penalty coming out of that. Now, if you want to get something overturned, you would certainly like to have your offensive line coach either in the press box or on the field with your offensive. Now, they got, obviously they got Gabe Farida, who's been here as a offensive analyst for now going on 4 years, an old high school football coach who's kind of an offensive line guru. So Gabe's going to be there. He's been with Alex. He's been with Mike for the last 4 years. So, but I think that was the biggest penalty. The recruiting penalties, as far as that was concerned, outside of Alex being taken off the field, I think that is the other ones were minor in my estimation.
And I mean, the fact that everybody is doing the same thing FSU has been doing, those what they got penalized for was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, some of these are tic-tacky penalties.
You kind of feel like they were targeted a little bit. My God.
Well, listen, I'll say this: when you start winning, NCAA is going to come looking. You can go back and look at every program that's won in Ohio State.
Yeah.
How many times you can see they went in and got Tressel. We saw what was it? Sneaker Gate after Florida State won a national championship. We've seen stuff happen in Florida. We've seen, LSU wins the national championship under Les Miles several years later. They're taking 37 wins away from him. Listen, the NCAA needs to be done away with.
Yes, please.
We need to get Peyton Manning to be the commissioner of college football. Let's have
everything.
Let's have a independent governing body for college football, which is turned into really semi-pro. If you want.
You're in the middle of all this NIL and recruiting stuff. Just give me a couple minutes on where we're at right now, and just the craziness that's happening and the money that's going back and forth. We hear big dollars, and maybe that's not really true. Like, from your perspective, what is this like right now?
Well, I think they've got to figure. All right, so I think there needs to be some kind of salary cap on this whole thing, because what you're seeing schools that are promising more money than they can produce. And I'm not going to get into I know that there's schools from coast to coast that are having problem fulfilling what they promised kids. Like, they're getting short paid, right? I know there was a kid from Florida that committed to a school out west and ended up back on this side of the coast. And the story was he was not getting what he was promised in the recruiting process. That's not only happening out west; it's happening on this side of the.
Are they signing contracts?
Are these
NIL deals? Are they contracts?
I don't know what an NIL contract looks like. They are signing contracts to some extent, yes. And listen, I think we got all right. So these NIL contracts, are you going to get paid if you make an appearance at this booster club function or this?
Autograph signing,
whatever. I think, let's just call it what it is. We are paying these guys to play football.
Right.
So let's pay for play. Let's call it what it is. Let's, do they need to do these speaking engagements for the NIL? I guess. I guess it's kind of like I guess there's a standard pro contract where I guess, if Buffalo Bills ask Keon Coleman to do an interview, he's got to do it, right?
Right.
I'm sure there's some things like that. But, yeah, it's weird because you don't really know if, you got to trust. If a kid comes in and says, I'm getting $125,000 from University X, there's no way to know whether that's true or not. Right? I mean, you don't know. I mean, so
you're negotiating against yourself.
You got to trust the kid's not playing you. I mean, and we see that go on. And some of the numbers
are crazy.
I think most of the numbers are exaggerated.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think there are some kids that are going to make $4 or $5 million, mostly quarterbacks, over the course of their career if they obviously turn into QB1. I mean, some of this has got to be performance-based, right? I mean,
I would hope.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
the kid doesn't make it. And can they? What happens if they transfer? If they, these deals. If Florida State offers a quarterback $1 million and he transfers the next year, does he get the money? Like, is it paid in installments?
I've heard a anecdotal story. I'm not going to tell you the.
That's fine.
Or the kid, because I don't know the kid. I just know the story. But apparently there was a kid at a major university that wanted to transfer. He wanted to enter the portal, and he was told that if you enter the portal, you're going to owe us. We fronted you this money. You've spent the money. If you transfer without giving it back to us, we're going to sue you. So I listen. Whether that's true, I trust my source on that.
Sounds right. It sounds fair. Sounds fair.
And I didn't dive into the details on this. I just was like, hey. And then, of course, now you've got NIL is allowable for high school athletes in Florida. So,
yeah,
if your son is really good and you live in Tampa, Florida, which has got a lot of Florida boosters, a lot of Florida State boosters, a lot of Miami boosters, if I'm going to go work out some NIL, I'm going to go to the guy that's a Florida State booster, owns a car dealership, and the guy that owns Subway the Subway is in Tampa that was a Florida graduate. I'm gonna go get my son NIL deals from all of them because they're all recruiting him. So listen, I can't believe somebody sent me a message. There's a high school here that sent their kids a message. Hey, listen, don't sign any NIL deals yet because it's still got to be ratified by some board in July. The state of Florida,
July 24th. Yeah.
And first of all, the whole thing was who on that team is good enough to get an NIL deal. so it's kind of
where we are.
But yeah, so I don't know, man. I think that now I think we're getting closer to revenue sharing and some kind of roster management,
some guardrails,
and some kind of threshold for pay, but you got to do something. It's wacky right now, and it will continue to be until we figure out where everybody's going to end up in conference expansion and
Big Ten.
I think
FSU headed to the Big Ten.
That's what I've said all along. But
right, yeah, me too.
Depending on who you talk to, I'm either right or wrong.
Right. I think it's a Big Ten. I think they'll probably announce here pretty soon too. Those losses in court by the ACC recently are going to force them to settle this at some point. So might as well be sooner than later. So let's hope so. Well, hey, before you go, maybe a little quick one on what we're going to see August 24th, which is rapidly approaching. This Florida State team this year with DJU and all the speed they've added. I have a hard time seeing them winning less than 9-10 games. Where are you at? This team?
I've been right around 9. I think if you ask me for a preseason prediction right now, I would say 9-3 with a plus/minus of 1. Listen, this team lost a tremendous amount of talent. Did they bring something in? Yes, but listen, and maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't think some of the kids that they brought in are as good as some of the kids that they lost. Now, it's hard to find a Braden Fisk. It's hard to find a Jared Verse. And now Marvin Jones has got a better chance to be more like Jared Verse than Grady Kelly does Braden Fisk. But I don't think they replaced I think the players that left are better than the players they replaced them with.
Well, they all went to the NFL for God's sake.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, you lost one of the most dynamic playmakers in all of college football for the last 3 years in Jordan Travis. Now, DJ brings new things for defenses to defend, but you've lost a unbelievable weapon that could make plays out of nothing in Jordan
Yeah.
Travis. So do I think it's a 13-0 team? No, but I didn't think last year's team was a 13-0
Yeah,
team.
yeah, true.
I had them at 10-2 or 11-1. Listen, I think it's going to be a very good football team. I don't think it's going to be last year's football team. And listen, I think the schedule as it sets up right now might be a little bit more difficult than last year's. I don't think that, you ask about August 24th. I think that this Georgia Tech team is going to be a tough mental football team. They brought in about 18 transfers. I really like the job that guy has done there. And then
No pushover. No.
Yeah, so then you're bringing in a Memphis team that's not going to be Duquesne. I mean,
yeah, right.
I think you got one FCS team on the schedule. You got to go to Notre Dame. I think North Carolina comes here. You go there. They're supposed to be pretty good. I haven't whipped out the schedule in a while. But listen, we're exactly a month from the team reporting, which is hard to believe.
Wow.
They report on, I believe, the 23rd or 24th and start practice on either the 24th or 25th. It's one of those two dates. So we're and then we're 60 days from the first game, 61 days from the first game.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
It's gonna get here quick. I mean, I know a lot of this offseason seems like it's gone quicker than most that I can remember. Of course, there is no offseason in football anymore because you go from bowl season to portal season to junior days to spring practice to official visits and summer camp. So
no days off.
Yeah. So listen, I'm going to try to disappear for about the next 30. I'll be happy to come join you guys, but I'm going to the lake in North Georgia after I leave this 5-star Rivals camp in Jacksonville. Listen, there's going to be a lot of big names for not only the 2025 class, but 26 and 27s at this camp. So if you're not a Rivals subscriber or Osceola subscriber, I would ask you to go check out rivals.com or theosceola.com because we will have 104 of the best players in the country in Jacksonville for 3 days starting tomorrow. I'm getting ready to head over there tomorrow or tonight, and we'll have a media.
Good time to sign up.
Yes. Yeah. So, And by the way, there is, if you sign up for the Osceola, and I don't have the information in front of me, but if you go to the Osceola, theosceola.com or floridastate.rivals.com, you get free membership until I believe the start of practice or the first game. Anyway,
there you go.
There's a special at the Osceola. Go check it out. Now we are doing a rebrand, a rebuild today, so there's some technical issues going on, but certainly check us out. Hopefully we'll have all that remedied as they've just come out with new logos and new fonts on the site. We're going through some.
Well, that's important.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, listen.
Go get the information.
I'm glad it's football season because that means I get to hang out with you guys a little bit.
All right, me too. We're getting there. All right, Pat. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Have a great trip.
JP. Y'all have a great
time
one.
off. All right, hey, Pat Burnham right there. All right, we got to hit a break. Damn, we haven't got all our breaks in. Thanks so much to all of our great sponsors, to Gettis Gordon Group, Extravaganza Productions. Go see them. Go to their website, and if you got a big meeting coming up or anything in terms of a charity event, or you got a big birthday, you want to do something creative, let the pros do it. Very, very reasonable rates, and you don't have to do all the work, and they will absolutely knock it out of the park. Extravaganzaproductions.com. Go to their website. All right, quick break. Back to wrap everything up right after this. Stay with us.